No, we're going in 1 minute. It's okay.
Okay, we are live. Hello, everyone. Eccentric Artists is very happy to be closing the 6th edition with these 3 amazing artists. So welcome to session 2 of our Q&As. My name is Nadine Natividad, and I will be your host for tonight. If this is your first time joining us, here's a little breakdown of tonight's live stream. For the first 45 minutes, I'll be asking our featured artists a variety of questions. Then we're going to be transitioning over to audience questions at the end. So if you have a question you'd like to ask our guests, feel free to enter them into the chat at any time, and our team behind the scenes will be sure to save them for later. Okay, so without further ado, let us introduce you to our guests tonight. First up, we have Audrey Page. She is a Las Vegas local production designer. She graduated from UNLV with 2 degrees, a BA in film and a BS in graphic design and media studies. Since graduation in 2019, she's worked on commercials, music videos, features, and many short films. Her career is just starting, and she's taking it one step at a time to fulfill her dream of becoming a narrative feature film production designer. Hi, Audrey.
Hi, guys.
All
Audrey.
right. Next up, we have Jenny Edigio. Jenny has been working as a makeup and SFX artist for theater, TV, and film for 15 years. Wow. Having graduated from film at UNLV with a focus in art design, writing, and directing, her background in indie filmmaking has sharpened her skills against Murphy's Law. Viewing any setback as a challenge to get inventive, her passion for storytelling and creative collaboration fuels her drive to keep all the wheels running smoothly for the sake of art. All right. Hi, Jenny. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. And last but not least, we have Demyia. Colorful aesthetics, glitter, and a touch of existentialism, Demyia aims to craft works of art that are both profoundly personal, yet sentimentally universal. From creating graphics to producing beats, they are one of the many DIY artists trying to navigate the new artistic landscape. Known for eccentric lyricism, effectively minimalistic tracks, and high-energy performances, art is truly their raison d'etre. I think I said that right. Hi, Demyia.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us. Okay, cool. So on behalf of the board, we would like to once again thank you all for being here today. Before we jump right into the questions, please sit back and enjoy a short video showcasing the work of our featured artists. And also a huge thank you to Carlin Musni for editing this one.
Everybody got dirt. Somebody order Chinese food?
Your money is back there.
That hustling. It's all around us.
I didn't catch your name.
My name is Jenny Edigio, and I did makeup and special effects. We had all these different ideas of the genie looking a different color, of him looking a little bit more magical, but we ended up going with that hipster, cool guy look.
Look at her. She's harmless.
Dripping glitter and booze, feeling the rhythm, yeah. You and I are dancing like how many hours of sleep will I lose over you? How many times will I lose? I'm digging deeper, found myself a screw up and I'm hoping he's a keeper. Drinking to the morn, no sleeping. Boss always asking why I smell like tequila.
All right, that was so awesome. You guys are so cool. So thank you everybody for watching. Let's go ahead and start with our questions. First up, what is the biggest challenge you faced working in a male-dominated industry? And what changes would you like to see? Demyia, if you want to go first.
I think the biggest thing that I've noticed is sort of like, I don't know how to, like, the delegitimization of like being either a woman or a non-binary person in like a field, and how people are like, the guy like, oh, well, are you sure you know what you're doing? Like, that sort of thing that you would think after all these years would not still be an issue, but is and continues to be. And I think the best way to combat that is like what you guys are doing is like, having a space for women and for, female presenting people to like have their art and share their art, where it's very communal, and we're all like very much about like supporting each other and wanting to see each other thrive and survive and, get through this together. So.
For me, I feel like the biggest issue I've come across is if people don't know me, and I'm standing next to a guy who might not necessarily be my boss, they always look to that man for a few more answers than they would from me. So I feel like it's about respect. Most of the respect that I've gotten has been earned. And I feel like even with women I've spoke with too, in the past, they feel the same.
I think with me, a lot of the times when I'm on set, they don't really know my department as a makeup artist as well. And so they assume that that's all I know on set. They don't know that I've, been in directing and art producing, or in just a regular set all the time. You get experience, and they think that I'm only for the makeup world. And so it's constantly having to prove that I know what's going on set. I'm not going to step on any toes. But I find recently with the younger generation, I feel like the men that I've been working with have been a lot more respectful. It's not that old school kind of mentality anymore. So I got to really commend our generation, actually, especially not to single out UNLV, but we do have a good group of students there that really care about the 702 Mafia. So I see some good changes coming in.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like something universal I heard from all of you guys, and something I've also experienced myself, and I'm sure a lot of like, non-male people have probably experienced this in the arts industry, and maybe even under other industries, but it's like, it's not necessarily that people are always straight up just like, misogynistic outwardly, but sometimes it does come in small ways, and I feel like you still feel that, even a little bit. And so it's both comforting and a little sad that we've all had some sort of experience like that. But I do agree with you, Jenny, that I feel like with how much more we're accessible to each other through, social media, like we're all here on Zoom, and everything, and we've all been communicating electronically most of this time, because of everything that's going on. I feel like that does kind of change the field a bit more and does help us develop, and that's nice to see. So thank you guys for all sharing that and being here. So speaking of which, so if you could talk to your younger self, about where you are now and whatever your younger self was going through, maybe artistically and whatnot, what would be the piece of advice? If you could give one piece of advice, what would it be to them?
If I could give my younger self advice, it would be to just, I don't know, the same advice I try to give myself now, and just keep going. Don't let, that inner, like, you suck. Don't let that get to you. And like, it's good to be constructive, but there's a point where like, once it's not, learn like turn those thoughts off and keep on keeping on.
So it kind of, one of the things that I live by kind of comes from a not Lizzie McGuire, Hilary Duff film. It's called Cinderella Story. And that saying, I was just watching this film, I think like 2 or 3 weekends ago, and it's don't let the fear of striking out keep you from playing the game. And I feel like that lives true from when I was younger and as I'm getting older too. Another thing is Provejito in Altum. It comes from one of the bands that I used to follow, 30 Seconds to Mars. It means diving into the deep. And I see that literally and also kind of figuratively. Just dive deep into your emotions, source where your emotions are coming from, and then use them to help make your art better. Just like truly understanding yourself and everything else.
On that same vein, I think also remembering that being on a lot of sets, you can really get disoriented, if you're working on a feature for a month long. And if it's miserable, you can feel like your whole life is miserable because you're with these people for 14 hours a day. A good thing for me that would have been helpful for me is like enjoy it, have the passion, but know that each project is separate and you have your own separate life from it, because it can get really draining. But of course, the love of filmmaking just keeps you going, and it's so rewarding at the end. It's no matter how hard it is, it's always rewarding to just get it done. And another thing I would tell myself is don't be scared to ask for what you need. Never be scared. No, don't think you're asking too much, because at the end, you just really care about your craft. And a lot of times, even as females, I feel like sometimes we're more oriented to not ask. So that's a really big piece of advice that I wish someone would have told me.
Yeah, I mean, that's all. I think all of us, younger or future or present, would benefit from everything you guys have said. One of the reasons that we all asked you guys here to be featured artists is because you guys are very skilled at what you do. You guys are very experienced. So that being said, what is something new that you're learning that you'd like to eventually master in your artistic field? If there's anything.
So performing, like gigging, is actually still pretty new to me. Like I started this year, like gigging around town. Like I've been writing, but like actually performing is still something that I'm like getting a grasp of. So I'm constantly learning, working on my stage presence, working on how engaging not only like the audience, but like making it like, I think every performance is like, it's a group effort. It's not just me on stage, like, okay, listen to me. Like, no, like there would be no performance if the audience wasn't there. So I like to include them and make sure it's like, a community. And so I'm working on my stage presence and learning more about that. And on the technical side, I want to learn more about like sound engineering, learn how to have my own show. That'd be cool.
For me, I think for everybody as artists, the world is our oyster and there's so much to learn from. And I think we should all be students throughout life. Specifically, I guess one thing right now that I'm really focusing on to make myself a better designer and artist is 3D modeling. I've been using like online classes through different like Skillshare and things of that nature to propel myself forward. So yeah, the world is your oyster.
For me, I'd really want to just dive into special effects full blown, like learning how to do a full cast, a full transformation, prosthetics. I know a little bit, but I'd really like to just do it as realistically as possible. Originally, what I really wanted to do before film was work for the FBI and learn how to disguise someone really well, just by changing a few features here and there. So something like that, I would love to get into some intense training, one-on-one with a master. So I'm hoping that maybe I can be someone's apprentice one day soon. We'll see.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. I didn't even think about the FBI or having to work like that. That's so cool. To piggyback off this subject, in your guys' individual artistic mediums, you know, we all kind of picked you because our theme was like visuals, what you see on camera. What would you consider your most useful tool, like something you could not go without as like, you know, a performer, a production designer, a makeup artist? Like, what's the one thing you know that you have to have?
I would say I'm gonna combine the two, my iPhone and my iPad. So my phone I use to like take all my pictures for my Instagram and stuff. I also, my calendar is on there, so like everything to like, you know, this is when I have shows, this is when I have rehearsals, like my whole life is on there and in my planner. And then my iPad, because that's where I produce my tracks. Really couldn't do much about it.
For myself, I think it's both my iPad and Excel spreadsheets. There's being real serious, like there's so much organization that has to happen for production design, and I think any field within the arts, especially in film, just like keeping organized on my iPad for drawing and making lists or creating 3D models. Yeah.
With me, I wish that I could just say one thing, but everything, honestly, from like what the lighting's going to look like that day. I really need to be in communication with the cinematographer. So I would say maybe like a lookbook of some kind that we can all, the director, the lighting department, costumes, having a visual Bible or a guideline. So because my idea of elegant can mean something completely different to someone else. Words are kind of hard to just go off on. So I would say some type of lookbook and the script. I mean, it's a stereotype that a lot of makeup artists would come to set and be like, oh, what's the look he wants? They don't even know what's happening on set, you know? So the script and lookbook, without a doubt. I mean, most basic but invaluable things.
Yeah. I'm seeing, so what I'm getting from this is definitely have an iPad and then also, you know, a script and lookbook. So that seems pretty on par here. Let's see. Well, okay, so Jenny, you started talking about how it's really important that you're in good communication as a makeup artist with the cinematographer. So that brings me into my kind of question about like collaboration. If there was somebody who you haven't collaborated with, but you would love to like do a project with, like it could be someone you know in real life, or it could be, you know, a famous person, it could be a dead famous person, but if you could collaborate with somebody, who would your dream collaboration be?
Oh man. Locally, I would have to say like there's this group out here called like, his name's Chucky Campbell. He's like one of the big like hip hop guys, and he plays with like a live band. He has like brass and stuff, and he like raps with the live band. I think that's super amazing. Famous wise, this is going more towards like my love of like theater and stuff. If I could collaborate with either, I guess first would be Stephen Sondheim, because but like more realistically would be Lin-Manuel Miranda. I would explode.
Nice.
And it would, yeah, no, I would love to work with Lin-Manuel Miranda in like any capacity.
I mean, same girl. I don't even do music, but same.
Locally, I'm kind of working with one of my dream collaborations right now, Danny and Rachel Shandia. They're with Desert Cactus Films. I look up to them so much. They're such hardworking people. People that I've worked with collaboratively, but never specifically with, George Menshikov and Nadine, actually, and Jem. I think they're both wonderful creatives, and I haven't had a chance to work with them specifically as like directors, writers, and I look forward to that in the future. Famous people wise, I really want, like if I could, I'd mentor under Adam Stockhausen. He is a production designer, but like specifically Wes Anderson and Martin Scorsese. Like I want to make silence, and I want to make the Grand Budapest Hotel, but like my own versions. So yeah.
Thank you, Audrey, for putting us on the same list as Wes Anderson. That's so nice of you. You hear that, Jem? Okay. Anyways, Jenny, what would be your answer?
And Wes Anderson, what a great answer. Yeah, I would definitely say the greats for me, like for the special effects makeup artists, like Rick Baker, Savini, who did Dusk Till Dawn. Those special effects are incredible, but I think my favorite would probably be Rob Bottin. He did The Thing, all the 80s animatronics with the head splitting. I mean, that's an incredible feat. And I'm always thinking, man, where would we be now if we stopped CGI and just did everything practical? Because that looks so amazing. So to work with someone like that would be just the biggest dream ever.
I mean, who would? I mean, I think about that too sometimes, right? Like I watch movies from like the 80s and older, and I'm just like, that wasn't bad. That actually like freaks me out. I remember Jaws was like one of the scariest movies I ever saw when I was a kid, and From Dusk Till Dawn. That used to freak me out a lot. That'd be super cool. Let us go now into some individual questions, and if you guys want to jump in and give your 2 cents too, once this person's done talking, go ahead. We're all chill here. But let's start with Demyia. So, as someone who has a strong artistic presence, how important is it for you to express yourself in both fashion aesthetics, visual aesthetics, and in your tracks as a musician? Like, how do you meld that all together and find something?
So that's still, in terms of like actual branding and whatnot, like that's still a work in progress. But the stuff that I've created thus far is like, I don't know, it's just kind of what I need to do it. Like, I've been writing since, forever. And so that was the first piece of it. And then I'm from, also from Vegas, but I'm in Buffalo right now. And so like growing up around, these constant, like the spectacle of a lot of things that happen in Vegas. And so that was like deeply ingrained into me. And so when I started performing myself, I was like, well, I need some element of spectacle. And so that's where, the aesthetic stuff came in. And yeah, I hope I'm not veering from the question at hand, but everything has its own, I don't know, piece. And like, that's just, it all fits together in my head as like one thing and just like different pieces of the same thing to create, to express how I'm feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And then outside of this, I have like my other music project, which is like singer-songwriter stuff. And that's like where I allow myself to be more vulnerable and I don't care as much about the aesthetics. And it's just kind of like, yeah.
Well, that's interesting. How do you balance that like really vulnerable part, but also something with a little bit more spectacle? I imagine that comes from different parts of like the artistic and emotional like spectrum. Where are you just like, and when do you like,
For me, it's like there are things that need to come out anyway. Like I need a space where I can release the energy of being, of heartbreak, of whatever, yada yada, with my songwriter stuff. And then I also have the love and desire to perform because I did theater for a bit. And so like that's like, I don't know, sometimes I'm not always in the mood to do, like I'll have a show where I'm like, I have to be super high energy and I'm feeling like a sad boy that day. Or I'll have a show where I'm playing, my sad songwriter stuff and I'm like super hyper and I'm like, I just want to like jump around. but I just have to like channel, like, think about like telling the story at the end of the day is what it boils down to. Like this, whatever I'm singing is like always about telling the story for me. And so once I settle into that, then it's easier to kind of switch.
All right. Thank you for sharing that. That's really cool to think about. Moving on to Audrey for her question. Speaking of spectacle, let's talk about Cannes. What was your experience going there for a Christmas dinner? Like, what is it? Was it 4 years ago now? 3? It's been a while.
I think it was 2018. It was a great experience going there with some of the filmmakers, yourself included, Tyler and MJ. It was just a fun experience, and I got to learn a lot about the film industry through the internship that was there. It was really nice to meet some of the filmmakers. It was a solid experience. It was really interesting.
Yeah. What was probably the most memorable part of that whole experience for you? Because, like, yeah, like I remember seeing all the different booths, all the different movies, all the people from around the world being there. Like, what out of all that, like, conglomeration of things happening at the same time, what was like the most memorable part of it?
Honestly, probably just getting to experience all the different films that were there with some of my closest collaborators and friends that I got to meet there that I'm still talking to this day, like Hannah and Zach and Tiger. Just getting to experience some of those bigger films at one of the biggest film festivals in the world and sharing that with other people.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that, Audrey. Jenny, one thing I wanted to ask you was, how much, as like a makeup and SFX artist, how much creative input do you have in building a character's look or their SFX makeup?
Well, it depends on the director, because every director has a different style. But really, it's like a three-part. It's between me, the actor, and the director. Sometimes the director doesn't want any input, and he just says, do everything that you want. Like, I trust you. And that's really fun, because then I can present something unexpected. But if it's a very specific need, it's usually shared between three people. Because the actor has to feel, as much as I feel like I can do a great job and make them look exactly in my mind how they're supposed to look, in the end, the actor really has to feel comfortable and grab from something that they can relate to. And at the end of the day, that's the most important thing, to make sure that the actor feels comfortable so that they can give a really good performance for the director.
All right, so you would say it varies then by different project. This is coming from someone who has, no background in that sort of stuff. So, all right, cool.
It definitely varies depending, but I would love 100%.
I mean, wouldn't we all? I feel like, everybody has to have that balance of like collaboration, but also controlling your own creative thing and not getting too crazy. But that's what it's like being, the artist that we are. And that's part of the fun of it. Demyia, speaking of like, talking about all these different artists and things, you said that you are originally from Las Vegas, but now you reside in Buffalo, New York. What are the different art scenes like there? Like, what is similar? What's different? Are they completely different? Like, tell us a little bit about that for people who are mostly on the East or West Coast right now.
So it's very interesting because like I said, I didn't start like gigging until I came out here to Buffalo. Like, I've been here for almost 2 years now. When I was in Vegas, I did more like musical theater. I played, I was in band. I played like clarinet and stuff. So it's, but from what I've noticed, like my friends who do like gig regularly out in Vegas versus my friends who gig regularly out here, it's like out there, it's a lot of the more so like entertainment, like fun, like everything in your face, which I like. I love both aspects of being an artist. Whereas here, it's more so like there's a bigger songwriter vibe. Like there's a lot of like underground stuff. Like people love. A lot of my friends love going to like basement punk shows. Like that's like the vibe of just like stuff that's real and stuff that's raw and not as polished. And so it's really interesting. Like, yeah, I'm always thinking about like what would it be like if I had started to like gig as a musician out in Vegas before I moved here. Like what would be different? And or if I like went back now, like what would, I don't know, how would I adjust?
Do you have any plans on like moving to Vegas or any other city, or do you feel very established in Buffalo?
I mean, Vegas is like my hometown, and like I don't want to be the person that like ends up always going back home, you know. Um, so I probably won't move back there, at least not anytime soon. Buffalo is cool. Right now I have my sights set on like in a year or two, I really want to save up and get my stuff together and move to New York City. I have a few friends in the music scene out there and they love it. And yeah, I think it would be nice to have a change of pace, but not like with any immediacy.
All right, cool. Thank you for sharing that, Demyia. Next up, Audrey, I have a question for you. So we're going to be talking about It Lives in a Cave in the Woods, which is a period piece. And I feel like that's not something that, you do often unless there's a really, it's a bigger budget feature film kind of movie thing, or even in Vegas where, it's hot and it's like, are we really going to be in these like 10-pound dresses? So tell us, how'd you tackle designing the house for, something set in the 1800s?
It kind of goes back to what I was saying, but like not letting the fear of striking out keep you from playing the game. I really like there's a dance you have to play with yourself, learning to say yes and no to different projects. And this was kind of like a no-brainer for me, being able to tackle or find a way to tackle a low budget period piece. And it was just a lot of studying of history, trying to find pieces that I could bring into a specific character, building a character off of what I considered to be the creative parts of the script, and merging that with history and trying to find a really good balance. It was a really big project and everybody worked really hard on it. And it's been a great experience. Mm-hmm. I learned a lot about myself in the process.
Okay, so you said you learned a lot of history having to do it. So is it set in a specific year, specific era, or were you guys just going for like, a Victorian, like what was the specs there, I guess?
It was somewhere between 1880 and 1890. Okay. And like lower to middle class family living in a farmhouse. So it was very specific, and I tried to pinpoint a spot with the director, and I think we found that year and space and time. But those were the years that I was looking at, that decade.
Very cool. I mean, I've seen a lot of it, on social media. I've seen all the stills. I'm really excited to see more. So yeah, can't wait.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Jenny, you mentioned earlier that when you're building a character's look or whatever, you do take into consideration, something that would make the actor comfortable, which would, help their performance. What's one thing that actors can do to make your job easier as a makeup artist?
Oh gosh, honestly, taking care of their own skin, and that's half the battle. Like there's only so much that makeup can do sometimes. Just knowing their skin, knowing what works for them, just getting to know themselves. That way I can ask them what your skin type is. I can know right away what products to use. And also, there's a lot of chaos on set, especially the actors are nervous. They're running lines in the makeup chair, and I'm going to hold up a paper, like I'm having to work around the script essentially. And there's also the directors in the trailer giving them direction. They might have an assistant. They might be trying to eat breakfast and coffee. So honestly, just staying still and letting me pamper them and get them ready, get them to calm down and relax. Mm-hmm. That's a luxury that we don't really usually get on really fast-paced stuff, but that's honestly makes the job so much faster and quicker for us so that I can get them in and out in a calm state. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So any actors listening, make sure you take this advice and make your MUA's job a lot easier. So as a makeup artist, this was something that I was really curious about. How did having to go through a pandemic, did that change kind of the protocols you had to do as a makeup artist? And like, if you did, what was it?
Absolutely. I mean, luckily we are already on top of, separating actor bags and keeping everything clean and organized. So really what we did was just step it up and separate even more. There are some new bags that have been invented, new type of storage units that kind of look like folders and pages. And that's been really helping to help not cross-contaminate. There's been a lot more new tools that are more sanitary, like the beauty blenders. We're able to go through those and label those. That way they last for a month for a feature, and they only touch one person's face and they can take it home. And in the makeup trailer, a really cool thing that we're doing now is we're doing clear shower curtains in between each station. And that way we can stay enclosed. We also have a lot of like air purifying mechanisms that we use inside of the trailer. There are so many tools I could go on, but a lot of it, we had to take some certification classes as well, just to be on top of all the chemicals, the difference of disinfecting and cleaning, really just like a salon kind of education that we had to take after the whole pandemic.
Yeah. Now that is something I've noticed, working on sets like during, the pandemic, everyone's like, oh, this is so different. Everyone's getting used to this new way of doing it. And I feel like it was a little difficult for some people to get through at first, but we're all moving through, right? Everyone's back to work again, which is really nice. And I think we'd all rather be safe than sorry and not have to jeopardize so much again. But yeah, I was very curious about that. So thank you. Back to you, Demyia. Can you tell us, so I want to talk about your cover art because, looking through your stuff, that is definitely, with your makeup and your costume and all the visuals that go into it, your cover art does stand out. And I want to know, like, where'd your love for graphics come from? You're already a musician, you're already like a songwriter, producer, and you were like, okay, I'll do the album art too. Where'd that come from?
So growing up, I mean, even now, I'm just like a person where like, I like trying everything. So like, I would do a lot of, when I was younger, I would do like oil painting. Right now, like my favorite is like ink drawing and stuff. So I've always loved to do like visual arts as well, but they've never been like the main focus of, my whatever. And then in terms of like making album art, cover art, etc., it's expensive to hire people, and I am someone who firmly believes in paying people what they're worth. And if I can't afford that, then I don't want to try to contract someone and like try to get less because I don't have it. Like that's gross. Like, and so I was like, in the meantime, I'll figure out how to do this stuff myself. And it's actually like, it's a lot less stressful than the music stuff. Like when I'm editing, it's kind of like cathartic because I just kind of get into my little zone and it's like relaxing, like trying to make all the pieces fit together and make it look as, visually pleasing to me. I don't know how other people perceive it, but I like it. And that's kind of the most important thing since it's representing my own art. And I think that's also it. Like, it's like what it is representing is like, this is the cover art for my music. And so I know what I want it to look like. I know what I want it to be. So if you, hopefully that answered the question kind of. I have a tendency.
Definitely. It did make me like, I think it's very gracious of you to even think about like, if I needed to hire like a graphic artist, but I can't pay them what they're worth, like I might as well just do this myself and try my best. Like, I feel like that's advice that a lot more people should be taking into account. I can't tell you the number of people, of like peers, that have had to put out work, tried to do their best for people and either not got paid enough or not got paid at all. And, with, the promise of being paid. And so I feel like as artists, especially since, we're, I guess, minorities in this industry, like you have to learn to like either stand up for yourself when those things happen, or like you're just like, let me just do it myself if I can't afford to, source this position. So I think that's really cool that was, where a lot of that kind of came from for you.
Yeah, Yeah, I'm all about like, even when I get like my friends to like play shows with me and I hire musicians, I'm like, I'm paying you guys, even if we only make $30 tonight, you're getting paid, like, because you're here to help me. I usually give them a flat rate too, but it's just like we need to start like embracing the era of making sure people are paid for their artistic, abilities, because it's work, it's valid work, and they deserve to be paid, and they deserve for their skills to be recognized.
Yeah. I feel like as somebody who has a lot of friends that are not in any kind of art scene or don't have that as their like, interest, I don't think a lot of people realize how like the starving artist, that artist struggle, a lot of it can be very real. And a lot of people don't really understand what goes into producing anything, whether it be music or a movie or anything like that. Which kind of brings me to my next question for Audrey. What's something you wish everybody knew about production design?
That it's a lot of time, it's a lot of hard labor and heavy lifting, and that it plays into a lot of what camera does and what cinematography is all about. Some of the best work I've ever seen has had a really elaborate set, and it gives the opportunity for a camera operator and a DP to work and find the best possible shot to tell the story. Yeah, that's what I wish people knew, and that production design is about giving a playground for actors. I feel like if a production designer does their job correctly, they're giving the actors a lot to play with on set, either visually or tactilely. They need to feel we need to give them a space to create in. And I feel like the best production designers out there do that for their actors.
What has been your most favorite thing to have production design? That, that whole playground of doing your artistic medium, what's been your favorite?
I feel like Margaret the Brave and It Lives in a Cave in the Woods. Both have had really interesting sets to play off of. And I feel like it's been a dream to collaborate with the directors and the producers that have helped to make those projects come together. So definitely those two. Yeah.
Oh, cool. I cannot wait to see how those two turn out. Like, I'm just waiting, you guys, for all your guys' amazing shorts to come out. But cool. Jenny, what has been the most challenging place you've done makeup in?
Ooh, Las Vegas. There's so many environmental hazards that we've had to shoot in because the West Coast is the cheapest place to shoot in. Las Vegas during the summertime, we have a lot of foreign TV shows, and I was on one TV show called 7 Days Alive, and it was like a 4.5-month project slated to be 5 months. And I mean, we were in the Valley of Fire, Nelson's Landing, and it was the craziest thing. We had hailstorms with 115-degree weather, and we had our set flood. We were filming in the caves down in Nelson's Landing in the mines, and it was just we had like 7 people that passed out from heat strokes, and very, very intense conditions. It was like it felt like a boot camp, honestly. And I would come home with a bruise and a cut every single day. So you don't realize how physical these jobs are, especially the longer they are, they can get really draining on you. And but I think the rewarding thing with that is like, now I feel like I can do anything. Like, keep me indoors, I can stay there for 16 hours if you need me. Like, it's really trained me. Going through that experience made me really appreciate, all other conditions. I'm like, this is cake. I can do it.
Yeah, I mean, shooting in Vegas in the summer is no joke. Like, anywhere you have extreme weather, obviously it's gonna be very physically taxing, but like, I'm still like have great respect for people who go out and film and like work and film in Vegas in the summer, because that stuff, like, I have had stories, where people have had passed out to heat stroke and things like that. And it's like, and all you're given sometimes is just like a bottle of water. But I feel like, my respect for people who work on set is is immense because the hours are really long and sometimes the conditions are not great, which, hopefully that changes sometime soon. Feels like that might be on the horizon. But yeah, like I realized after working like on set, especially in Vegas, I'm like, yeah, I'm more of like a production office person now. I don't think personally that I could go through that, but I commend people who do, because that shows, even though everyone deserves, like really good conditions to work in, it just shows how dedicated some people are to their craft. So, and I imagine the heat doesn't do wonders for makeup either. So yeah.
It's physical, constantly running back and forth. So, it's we're knee pads. We're knee pads.
Yeah. Like, so for Demyia, I'll move on to you again. Where does the creative process begin when writing and producing your music?
It really depends. It's my process is different for pretty much every song. Like sometimes I will start with like I'll have a melody in my head, and here I'm gonna backtrack. So before I started producing, I would usually I would have like a little idea, and then I'd go on keys, and then I would play it, and then I would make the song, and that's it. And then as I started playing guitar more, and as I started making beats more and stuff, it turned into, well, sometimes I have a song idea, I'll write the entire song out on piano, and then I'll produce a track for it, like with not even with the piano in it, just using that as like a reference. Or I will make a beat, and I'm like, okay, I can write something over this. Yeah, like it really just depends. More often than not, it's words first, or like words and music at the same time. It's rarely ever music first, because I'm more about like the storytelling part of it than like the music itself. Like piano and guitar and even tracks have always just been a vehicle for me to help tell the story. So I guess, yeah, that's the process, is like some sort of idea, so some sort of feeling, and then getting that feeling out into words, and then polishing it from there.
Do you have any, like, do you listen to certain artists, or like, what, do you have any other artists that influence you that you always go to? You know how like, I would say Steven Spielberg, he always watches The Searchers or something whenever he wants to do a new movie. Is there something your go-to is when you want to write something new?
No, I've a few years ago, or a couple years ago, I dealt with a loss, and that sort of put everything into perspective in the way where like anything and everything can be inspiring. So like I'll walk down the street and just, I mean, like here there are a lot of like trees that are actually growing. I know in Vegas, they have the little sticks that are holding up the trees. Like we don't have that here. There are actual trees that are like 50 years old. And like just go walking down the street, you have these beautiful trees, and like thinking of that and like, oh my gosh, that's gorgeous. Or hearing bird songs in the morning, and like, birds just wake up and they chirp and they're communicating to each other in whatever way. Or, just, or people watching. As an actor, people watching is like a big thing that I have picked up. And like literally I take inspiration from anything and everything around me, because to exist as to be a human is just the strangest fucking thing. And like if you can't find beauty in all of it, then it ends up just being very overwhelming. And so I choose to, be inspired by everything.
Okay. I'll extend the same question to you, Audrey and Jenny. Who are your biggest influences when you're creating your art? Oh, Audrey, you're on mute.
Sorry, forgot about that. I feel like some of my biggest influences for art come from some films that I saw when I was younger, like The Mirror's Two Faces, and like films that I'm seeing now. Like Nicholas Pesh is one of my favorite new and upcoming directors. He's kind of skyrocketed off, but he has like The Eyes of My Mother and Piercing are two films I really look up to for like psychological horror and the study of human psychology. Other influences are music, and I don't know, just kind of going off with what Demyia was saying, studying, like for me, specifically wall textures and like the way paint fades and the way streets fade are oddly some of the things that I study. Some of the uglier sides that people normally like with what's going right now, with how people want their apartments to look, white and perfect and like small influences of like different pops of color. I'm studying more of like the New York side of everything, where apartments are fading and wall paint is chipping and wood is fading. I don't know how to put it. That's just the grittier side of life is what I really look up to and study.
On that same road that you're going on, Audrey, with me, with the way that I style my makeup, it's something I was not classically trained like in a MAC store or anything like that. So, and they're trained to do perfect liners, perfect application within 5 minutes, and they're graded and they can't redo it. With me, since I've had it really came from theater and watching a lot of Eastern films. Like my best friend Angie, she showed me my first Bollywood movie when I was in high school, and I noticed that a lot of it, in Eastern cinema, they allow, the character's face to shine through. And it's different than a lot of American cinema. And I really like the simplicity and the more realism, like you're saying, Audrey, with the fading and things. I kind of do that with makeup too, where I don't want it to look perfect. I want it to look as if that character did it themselves in a rush, or whatever that character's personality is calling for. It needs to be realistic. So in a respect, I feel like what's helped me a lot is staying away from the precision beauty world and being more towards like where the Eastern cinema is more about their natural states as opposed to looking like something else. And it really, I feel like it gives a performance a more raw feeling, and a more realistic feeling. Like, I feel like you could live as that character, like, oh, it's kind of messed up. I believe she did it, I don't know if that makes sense, if I'm wording it correctly, but maybe Audrey, you can feel me.
100%. And yes, it makes sense. Total sense.
That's so cool though, how you guys take, just influences in just what you see in everyday life. I feel like, I don't know, I just think that's super cool. So we are winding down now, but before we completely wind down, I really want to get to our audience questions. So one of our first ones that came in is from Danny Chandia, and he asked, do you feel like it's even necessary to move to LA to do film/music anymore? And where do you see the Vegas film music scene 10 years from now? Demyia, for you, obviously Buffalo, but yeah, where do you guys see your local scenes from now? And do you think it's necessary to move? What are your thoughts on that?
There's a book that I read and actually like ran a book club for. It's called How to Make It in the New Music Business by Ari Herstand. And he has an entire section about like the big cities. So like New York, LA, Nashville, if you're a songwriter, and like London and stuff. And while like it's definitely possible to thrive in your native, like whatever scene you're in, for like music at least, those places are like, if you want to be around people who are constantly on the grind, who are always like, there's like, everyone around you is just amazing all the time and like always on top of their stuff, then yes, like I would, in the book he says to like, go to those cities because it's unlike anything else you'll experience in a lot of scenes. That said, I think there are a lot of wonderful local scenes, and I think a lot of them are starting to grow and build, and eventually they will be, you know, on par or similar to those big cities. And it'll be like having a big city music scene without the big city. So if you are willing to invest in your hometown and help grow the scene there, I say definitely do that. But if you're not really tied to a place, and you're like, and you want to be around people who are super dedicated and passionate 100% of the time and always grinding, then I would say, yeah, move to one of those cities.
And I think for the path that I see my career going, I think that moving to either LA, Georgia, or New York is kind of essential for the pace that I want my career to start in. With that being said, the Las Vegas film industry is growing, and especially after the pandemic, it's been super busy, and there's a lot of narrative work knocking at doors and even commercial work. But I do think yeah, our industry is growing, but I do think that I will eventually be moving. It's just kind of, I'm still flirting with the idea of grad school, and I can't really make up my mind. So we'll see. Yeah.
Well, for me, occasionally I do go to LA and work gigs there, and it's really refreshing. For now, I think that I still want to do some more projects on my own in Vegas, and of course, it's easier, cost effective. But I do love about Las Vegas that I don't want to speak for LA because I don't have really the experience of living there day by day. There's a big hustle culture, and there's always work there. But one thing that Vegas has is that there's so much local support. There's so many people that are just willing to allow us to film guerrilla style, and all they require is a shout out, you know, from their business, because there's a lot of small businesses here. And for instance, when I shot my short film, Piñata Novela, I was able to shoot inside there for 2 or 3 days. And all they required was a shout out at the end. And we were able to even talk about like them using my short film, you know, in maybe a commercial or something. So there's a lot more trade for trade here, which is good and bad, but I think it's a good thing because it's all local support, you know, especially back in the day when Fremont Street was still being renovated again by Tony Hsieh. There was a lot of people just pretty much asking, like, please film in our place for free. You know, we want to show it off. So I can't speak for LA, but I do love that about Vegas. So I think I'm going to be staying here for a little bit longer. But Georgia, I don't know, that sounds really exciting. I'd like to travel there. I'd really like to see Georgia. There's a lot of cool projects up and coming there.
Yeah. I mean, as somebody who lives in LA and is from Vegas, like, I do feel that like I there's a lot of things I prefer where I live now, but I do miss how just like willing, I'm like, if you're like, can I film here? And they're like, people are usually kind of honored when you ask over there. And that's kind of really nice and refreshing. Whereas versus here, everyone's like, well, if you're not going to film here, somebody else will, who will pay what I'm asking. So that is a very big difference between the two cities. Our next audience question is from Tyler Yarbrough. He's asking, what is the strangest influence, movie, song, or other, you've had for your work?
Strangest influence. I don't know if he's at all influenced what I'm currently making, but when I was younger, one of my favorite musicians, and I went to an entire rabbit hole when I was like 10, was Tiny Tim. It's the first it started because I was a big SpongeBob fan. The first episode of SpongeBob has the song like living in the sunlight, living in the moonlight, yeah. So that's Tiny Tim. He does like the crazy falsetto, and he plays ukulele, and I guess he kind of influences like me in the sense of like, for when I want to be like just kind of strange, I embrace it and I'm like, okay, whatever. like with my songwriter stuff, I always introduce myself as everyone's favorite gay uncle. And they get a kick out of that. So yeah, Tiny Tim is probably my strangest influence.
Good choice. Good choice.
Okay, so I tried to find the name of the music video, but there's a really specific music video, and it's a bit of an odd subject to most people. It's like the underground sex dungeons in Paris, in France, and Europe in general. Jared Leto did a music video, kind of almost like an exploration of that. And I saw that for the first time, and it was like, there are so many beautiful, different, and dark facets of human nature and society in general. And I really, that struck a bone in me. And I just wanted to explore some of these different and more intricate pieces of life that don't always get the spotlight. Like different people, different places, different things, human and beautiful. So
I remember that music video. Are they like wearing, this isn't a couple of their music videos, but are they like wearing masks and
yes.
Okay, I remember that. That is ingrained in my mind. That is
Yes.
like, yes, that's so cool. Jenny, you have an answer?
Well, some of my favorite things that I had seen that really changed my mind about what I wanted to present as a filmmaker. I love Tool's music videos. They're that stop motion, really gritty, grimy kind of look, and yet it's so powerful and impactful. And they're all about transcendence. And you always feel, you go on a journey when you're watching those music videos. And the psychedelicness of it, I've always dreamed of doing some really cool makeup like that, where you look at it and it kind of transcends you. I also really love Hayao Miyazaki, how he goes totally unexplained with his cinema, his story. He just throws you in the world, and you see this character and it has 3 eyes and 6 legs, and you're like, where did you come from? I don't know, but are you a good guy, a bad guy? Like, I love the mystery and the sheer unknowingness and you can watch those movies over and over again, and you get a completely different feeling, and you discover something new about it. And I'm working right now for the CSI department at UNLV, the Criminal Justice Department. And I'm getting to see a lot of up close, real dead bodies that I have to imitate for the students to examine. And that's been a brand new world for me, where it's like, now I actually see what these bodies look like, and they're nothing what they look like on TV. Yet it doesn't look real. The real bodies don't look real, you know? And that's been a really eye opener for me. And I've been able to carry that over into my other jobs. And but yeah, those 2 filmmakers, the artist for Tool and Hayao Miyazaki, just the way that they evoke emotion, I want to do that in every second that I can during filmmaking.
What's your favorite Hayao Miyazaki movie? If you could choose one.
It changes, like, it kind of changes, you know, on the year, on what I'm going through. For the longest time, it was Mononoke, Princess Mononoke, because that was the first one I'd ever seen when I was 6 years old. And I was like, this violent cartoon, what am I watching? And then I think right now, though, I think Howl's Moving Castle is extremely underrated, and the character development that each character goes through is pretty amazing, pretty incredible. And I read the book, and it's one of the first movies that I'm like, wow, this movie's much better than the book, and the book's great, you know? So yeah. What about you?
Oh, girl, Howl's Moving Castle. When you said that, my heart lit up. I was like, yeah, we got it. I got you. Very cool. Thank you for sharing. Our next question, very interesting question. It is from Umer the First, and they ask, have you listened to Happier Than Ever by Billie Eilish?
Is that just the song, or is that the entire album title? I forget.
I am not sure that that's their question. I guess comment on whatever you know.
I've listened, if I think that's the title of the full album. I've listened to half of it, and I need to listen to the other half. My friends have it on CD, which I'm like, who even owns a CD player? But it's in their car. And I like it. there are a lot of interesting things, and I love what Phineas and Billy are doing. Like Phineas's production style is so interesting, and it's, I don't know, I feel like they're an example of like just kind of do your own thing. Because like now that Billie Eilish is super popular, like that the breathy style is coming back into style, whatever. But like she was just kind of like whatever. She didn't care what the style was when she first started releasing music. She was just doing her thing, and like it paid off. And yeah, I could go on about Billie and Phineas. I think they're both absolutely incredible, and I want nothing but continued success for them.
So I can't say that I listened to her entire album. I have heard a couple songs and I've watched the music videos, and I love the style that she's putting out now. I can say for sure that I love the production design of Bad Guy. I think it's badass. It's so different, and yeah.
I haven't heard that album because I've been stuck in a hole for the past month. But every time that she comes out with anything, she takes one concept and she expands on that one note, and it's really haunting, and it sticks to your bones, really. And she's so uniquely different, and the way that she's also collaborating with her brother is really different, and I relate to that a lot. I'm very close with my brother and my family, and seeing that just fulfills me and makes me respect her even more. Yeah, she's an amazing artist. I wish I could expand more, but I'll get back to you when I listen to that album.
Yeah, I mean, I see you go on the internet and like there's people either praising Billie Eilish or everyone's like, she's an industry plant, but it's like, if she's good, why does it matter? If you like what she's putting out, so what? Whether she is or not. But yeah, whoever asked that question, thank you for bringing up Billie Eilish in that chat. I didn't know that would be something we were going to talk about tonight. All right. We have one more audience question, and they ask, what approach do each of you take to stand out from the competition in your fields?
I don't know. For me, that's not my goal, I guess. Like, I know in the grand scheme of things, like if you want wild success, you have to stand out. But my focus isn't on standing out. It's on doing what I love and what is fun to me. And like out here, because I said it is a little more like reserved in terms of performance, it does just stand out because most people aren't, throwing glitter everywhere and, getting backup dancers. But in Vegas, that's like super normal. So I guess that, but in general, like I would much rather like focus on being a part of the community and building a community and having this, like me and these people, we're working towards this common goal of being successful and awesome together. And yeah, I don't know. Hopefully that made sense.
I get you.
As far as standing out and being different, I think it just I don't know if I outwardly try to do that, but I just try to stick close to the person that I am, really check in with myself and view the stories that I'm wanting to tell, and just, I don't know, checking in with reality, where I am in my life and where the world is at, and just trying to, I don't know, just make art that makes people think, art that resonates with who I am and what I believe in, and hopefully that comes across to the people watching the films, whether they notice the design in the background or not. Yeah.
Well, I hope this doesn't come across like Michael Scott kind of answer, but like just not competing, like staying in my own lane, honestly, like really perfecting my own craft. But something that I find really helpful is just making yourself visible when you're on set, like always being in the line whenever someone needs something. I'm always next to costumes because they're always next to actors. I need to be by monitor. I never want to be off site and they're yelling, where's makeup? Like little things like that, having constant eye contact. You'll be surprised a lot of people are nervous to be up in front of monitor or in people's faces on set because they're nervous to be in the way. But there's a fine line. You kind of have to be a little bit of a ninja, and that's been my strength personally on set, is being there exactly when they need me and staying right off the shadows until I'm needed, but always being aware, having all ears, all eyes open. But yeah, just trying to perfect myself. Like there's always going to be an artist that's better than you, who's better skilled, who has more experience. But honestly, if you just focus on yourself, that's been so successful for me. Like, I think when you start comparing yourself is when you start to die a little bit.
True that. Like, thank you guys for your very, very insightful answers. I feel like, if anything, this has been really helpful for me. This is just a ruse for me to get the best advice from the coolest people possible. So thank you. Okay, we have one more question. This is our most important question that we make sure to ask at every Q&A. And it is the very controversial debate of Shrek 1 or Shrek 2.
I'm not gonna lie, I have the memory and attention span of a walnut, so I don't remember which one is which. I like them. I think the first three were acceptable, and then after that they got weird. But I'm just gonna say Shrek 1 because that might be a lie. What does he turn into a human? Is that like 3? Wait, no. Which one is the one with the giant gingerbread guy?
Oh man, I think that's 2 as well.
3 too. Because the fairy godmother sings, "I need a hero," and then the giant. I literally cry every time with like when they destroy the giant gingerbread guy. Yeah, 2.
You remember Shrek 2 like pretty well, to give you credit. So.
I'm a Shrek 1 fan.
Mm-hmm.
I actually just watched it, I think 3 weeks ago, maybe 2 weeks ago now. I got home from set, and the entire day I was talking to the person that was in the room with me, because I'm working in a coordinator position right now. And I was just saying, man, I want to watch Shrek and I want to hear Donkey's lines. Donkey is my all-time favorite. It's my wingman. Like, I love Donkey. I think he's great. Great character.
Can't go wrong with Eddie Murphy.
Stairmaster. I gotta say number 1, because that was like the first movie that gave Disney a slap in the face and was like, yo, Disney, screw that. Let's throw some adult jokes in there. And watching it as a Disney obsessed kid, I was like, okay, you won me over. All these dirty jokes are great. And I don't know if you guys remember, there was a lot of great bloopers on that first movie with the CGI Fuzzy Donkey. Does anyone remember Fuzzy Donkey?
Yep, I remember that. I watched that DVD so many times. Cool.
Life.
All right, well, see, I'm talking to Tiffany specifically behind the scenes. Looks like Shrek won this round, so thank you very much. Okay. So thank you guys. That wraps up our 6th edition of Featured Artist Q&As. Thank you guys for all your answers, for showing up, for being here. You guys are so cool. And I wish you guys all the best luck in all your endeavors. We truly appreciate you taking the time to chat with us tonight. To our audience, if you want to check more of these folks out, be sure to visit our website, eccentricartist.space, and follow all their social links listed under our featured artist tabs. You will not regret it. All right, and before we go, we'd like to briefly go over some of our upcoming events. As many of you may know, this past September has marked Eccentric Artists' 1st anniversary as a collective, and to celebrate, we're going to be hosting the Shameless Plug Arts Festival this Saturday. I can't believe it's a Saturday, October 2nd at Ferguson's downtown. Doors open at 6 p.m. and admission is free, but make sure to reserve your tickets. If you'd like to donate to help us to fund more entertaining and informative events, you'll be eligible to enter a raffle where there's a bunch of prizes you can win, with a lot of them being work done by the artists that are participating in our event. So that's going to be really cool. Visit our website after this stream to look into more details about that. And after shameless plug, stay tuned for more exciting news about our next run of simulcast theater, which is where we do a live script reading virtually. And we've done 2 of those so far. So this is going to be our 3rd one, and they're always really fun to watch. So I hope you guys stay tuned for that. Follow us on social media. On Instagram, we are eccentricartist.space, and that is also our website. So go ahead and stay up to date with that. And that's all for now. Thank you again to Demyia, Audrey, and Jenny for joining us. I can't tell you how grateful we are and how much we admire your guys' work. And good night. Thank you to everyone watching. Thank you to everybody who asked questions. Thank you for all your support. And I'll see you